जय जय श्री राधे श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय हो. श्री गिरिराज धरन की जय. सब वैष्णव को जय श्री कृष्ण. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Today is the 31st day of the reading of Shri Chaurasi Vaishnav. Continuing from yesterday, the story of Dinkar Das and Mukundar Das. One day, on the occasion of a solar eclipse, Mukundar Das bathed in the river and stood therein to recite the name of the Lord. That Pandit came there and thought it might be a good chance to speak his Srimad Bhagavatam. Mukundar Das, however, recited just one verse and then began to explain it. He continued through the day and the entire night until the next morning. The village inhabitants came there to bathe. The Pandit said, "It is the next day already. When will you finish?" Mukundar Das told him that it would take 6 months to finish this one verse. Then the Pandit, now very tired, said, "Truly you have divine power. Otherwise, how would you know all this?" Mukundar Das replied, "That is my Lord's nature. If you know anything more, pray tell me." The Pandit knew that if he were to ask questions, then all of his own philosophy would be exposed as false, and so he never returned. This is the power of Sri Acharyaji's teachings and grace. From the Sri Subodhiniji, all other scriptures are revealed. Not long after this, Mukundar Das sat down and meditated on the beloved Lord in his heart and left his body, entering into eternal Leela. Some Vaishnavas went to Sri Acharyaji and said, "Mukundar Das has attained Avantika, the holy place of Ujjain." Sri Acharyaji told them, "Don't speak like this. You should realize that the holy place has attained Mukundar Das." Mukundar Das was such a staunch devotee, most dear to the Lord. Worldly people desire purification through resorting to holy places, but those holy places desire the company of such souls, of such holy souls. Even the holy places get liberated from their touch. The elder brother Dinkar Das's story has not been recounted at length because from the day he came home after initiation by Sri Acharyaji, he used to read the handwritten text Sri Acharyaji had given him and just beat his head and cry with the sentiment that he had once been Sri Nandaraji's brother and now he was lost on the worldly plane. After 3 months of such intense separation, he left his body and entered the eternal Leela. His story is an incredible tale of woe. Worldly people would never understand such an account, and so it has not been revealed. Thus concludes Varta 19, the story of the staunch Vaishnavas Dinkar Das and Mukundar Das from Malava, although their story truly has no end since they were so graced. Continuing with Varta 20, the story of Prabhu Das Jalota, a Kshatriya from Simhananda. Bhav Prakash, the inner meaning. This Kshatriya, Prabhu Das Jalota, is Sri Lalitaji's Sakhi in the eternal Leela. Her name is Manmatamod. She makes all the preparations for their secret loving pastimes. Sri and Lalitaji remain immersed in the stories of such pastimes. Hence her name, which means that she derives great joy from Sri Krishna, the churner of the mind. He was born into a Kshatriya family in Simhanand and was married off at the age of 11 to a wicked wife who hurled abuse at everyone and gave everything that came into her home to her own mother and father. All the relatives had been insulted by her, and so no one came to the house. One day she demanded that Prabhu Das bring her some money. "Where should I get it from?" he replied. "If some comes along, I shall bring it." She then struck him, which made him very angry. The wife broke off her bangles, shaved her head, and then went to the local Muslim ruler, declaring that she would no longer live as Prabhu Das's wife. She said that she would kill him if he came home. Then Prabhu Das came there and said that he was now going to leave the house and divorce from his wife. He left the village and went into the capital, Srikandapur, where he stayed with Ramdas, another Kshatriya. Ramdas was associating with some Vaishnavas on the path of lawful limitations. Prabhu Das remained there for a few days. Sri Acharyaji was staying in a small garden near to the capital Sikandapur. Prabhu Das came to their garden. When he so much as caught sight of Sri Acharyaji, he immediately wanted to become his disciple. He requested Sri Acharyaji to let him do just that. Sri Acharya told him that he should not become his disciple because he was staying with Ram Das, who was a follower of the path of lawful limitations. Prabhu Das suggested that Ram Das might also become Sri Acharya's disciple, and could he then be initiated? He insisted that Ram Das would not refuse his request. But Sri Acharya said that there was no point because Ram Das was firmly on his own path and was not qualified to come to the path of grace. Anyway, he said, bring him here and I will initiate both of you together. Prabhu Das went to Ram Das and told him that Sri Acharya, who was truly the Lord himself, had come to town and was staying in the garden. Let's go and get initiated by him together, he said, and then we can serve the Lord. Ram Das objected that he already had a renounced yogi guru and that he wore his given beads at his neck, thus he did not need another guru. Prabhu Das told him that he would now collect his clothes and his pots and pans and end the relationship. Ram Das relented and said that he would do it for Prabhu Das's sake, but that he would not give up his own ways. Prabhu Das said that he could become a disciple without adopting all the practices. The two of them then bathed and came to Sri Acharya, who initiated them both with the Lord's name. At that moment, Prabhu Das realized Sri Acharya's true form, but Ram Das did not. Prabhu Das also asked to take the second or Brahma Sambandha initiation, and Sri Acharya agreed for him, but not for Ram Das. Prabhu Das then understood and asked to take the second initiation by himself. Sri Acharya granted Prabhu Das and the Brahma Sambandh. Prabhu Das then also requested that he might have a deity to serve, and that the two of them could serve together. Sri Acharya said that this could not happen at that time, but maybe a few days later. After this, Sri Acharya went to Gokul. Prabhu Das began to live according to the ways of the path of grace, but Ram Das stuck to his old path. A few days later, Sri Acharya's eldest son Gopinathji came to Sikandapur. Ram Das asked him to give him a deity to serve. Sri Gopinath said he knew a Brahmin who had a form of Sri Madan Mohanji, and he brought the Swarupa from him and gave it to him, the both of them. He then left for Adel. Ram Das's mentality was that of the lawful path, where the way is to serve for a reward and at the servant's convenience. Prabhu Das could not bear this, and so he left in the middle of the night. He did not want to bang heads with Ram Das any more, and realized that he had not acquired the necessary knowledge, and that the Sri Thakurji, that Sri Gopinathji had granted them, was also not a graceful Swarupa and was perfectly fitting to Ram Das's heart and consciousness. He left and went to Sri Acharya in Gokul, where he bowed low to him. Sri Acharya said, "O Prabhu Das, you have come." Prabhu Das humbly said that it had been very difficult to get away from that bad association. Sri Acharya reminded him that he had told him at the very start that Ram Das was not of the path of grace and was not qualified to be so. You, however, Prabhu Das, are a grace-filled soul. It is good that you have left and come here alone. Prabhu Das requested him to keep him in the service of his feet, because he had been wandering around in the world for far too long. Sri Acharya said that he was very happy for him to stay there with him. From that day on, Prabhu Das stayed at Sri Acharya's side. Aaj ke Anand ki jai ho. We continue with Prabhu Das Jarota's story tomorrow. Shri Vallabhadesh ki jai. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe.